Hello, good morning. My name is Debbie Jacobs, and I wanted to do a video on how to avoid mental illness in kids. And this is based on my experience of healing myself out of mental illness. And you actually be surprised that basically, our behaviors and our thoughts are learned. We don't come to the world with thoughts and behaviors. We come a blank slate, no information. Everything, uh, you know, um, about our experience we develop, including the thinking and coping skills to deal with it. And basically, it doesn't help that parents are negative thinkers and teach negative, ineffective coping skills. And they teach it by modeling it and they teach it by creating it. So if my parent is making me angry, and they keep making me angry over the course of my development, I'm developing anger. If my parent is scaring me by yelling at me over the course of my development, I'm going to develop fear. you know if my parent or is making me feel bad about myself over the course of my development, I'm gonna grow up and feel bad about myself. I'm gonna develop guilt and shame and and poor coping skills that make me feel bad about myself, like beating myself up or putting myself down, because these are learned behaviors. I didn't come to the world, children don't come to the world, you know with this inclination. We learn everything and then adapt accordingly with our thinking and our coping skills, our behaviors. So somebody isn't born shy, they develop shyness out of their experiences and they ingrain it into the foundation of their being, and they end up that way for life, because it's a behavior that they develop for lack of effective coping skills and ineffective thinking. Shyness doesn't come from positive thinking, it comes from negative thinking. So basically, the challenge is that parents really need to be positive thinkers with effective coping skills. And what are effective coping skills? Assertiveness, effective listening, effective communication skills, conflict resolution skills, problem solving skills, um, interpersonal skills, being polite, having manners, respect, kindness, understanding, empathy, learning to let things go, learning how to ignore things, like that. We need those kind of coping skills, not ineffective coping skills like anger, worry, insecurity, self doubt, jealousy, shame, resentment, sensitivity. We don't need those, as coping skills. We don't need them. We don't need to, go through our life, choosing one of the above, to help us in our situations. That's why they're ineffective, and they create negative outcomes and negative and unhappiness. And let me tell you something: when kids learn negative outcomes and they learn to create negative outcomes and they learn to perpetuate negativity, in their thinking, they are definitely negative thinkers with ineffective coping skills, but they can be on the path to suicide, to self-harm, to mental illness, to prison, to alcohol problems, to drug addiction, you know, um, because all of the negative thinking and the negative ineffective coping skills don't really serve us. And if you were to play, like Russian roulette, your kid's gonna get one of them, or unconsciousness. And they could even be on the path to great stardom and success, because we see a lot of successful people living with depression, anxiety, committing suicide. I mean, so many musicians that seem to have everything: a spouse, children, money, success, fame, end up killing themselves. So you know what they didn't have? They didn't have happiness, and they didn't have positive thoughts. So you don't know what you're going to get with negative thoughts, but you're not going to get happiness. You're not. You're going to get unconsciousness. Because even people, without mental illness that have negative thoughts and low self esteem, they're still living with anger, worry, fear, anxiety, self doubt, jealousy. They're demons. That's not happiness. That's unconsciousness. They might have family and love and good jobs, but they may work too hard and have success and not happiness. So basically, this is, what you don't want. You want your kids to not be on the path to negative thinking and low self esteem. And how do you keep your kids, off the path from negative thinking and low self esteem if you yourself have negative thoughts and low self esteem? Well, you have to be open to learning, and you have to do it for the benefit of your kid. And what I'm saying is that if you see your kid creating negative outcomes, especially over nothing, you need to teach them how to create a positive outcome. Because what you're doing is you're actually, letting children uh, learn how to create upset and unhappiness for themselves. And you don't want them to create upset and unhappiness for themselves. You want them to create happiness and no upset. So what I see a lot of times kids get upset over nothing. And parents need to correct them and say, but why are you getting upset? You don't, there's no reason to get upset, and teach them not to get upset when they don't have to. Teach them how to handle the situations so they create a positive outcome. Because what's more important is them learning to create positive outcomes. Because when they learn to create positive outcomes, they won't create depression, anxiety, and bipolar, because they'll know how to keep themselves happy. Parents need to teach their kids how to be happy, how to create happiness in their life so that they're not creating negativity and sadness. And if a child is being moody and getting upset, they need to know how to replace those behaviors with effective behaviors that are good for their happiness. My parenting strategy would be a total defense against negativity, negative, ineffective coping skills, and depression, anxiety, and bipolar. I wouldn't want my kid to be happy. I would want my kid not to get mental illness. That would be my goal. And of course, happiness is going to come out of that, because I know if my child isn't in mental illness, they're going to be happy. But if I think my child is, happy, I'm not really going to notice all the unhappiness. And I need to notice all the unhappiness to make sure they don't get mental illness. So, my goal would be, in every opportunity, every time my child gets upset, I tell them, how to handle the situation. That's the learning process. And let me tell you something. If the child gets upset, and in my objective opinion, it's warranted, then I'm going to handle it, much differently than if a child is getting upset, that the ketchup fell down. Like, you don't get upset. And I do see that kids get upset about really silly things. And it's okay that they get upset. It's just a learning opportunity to teach them how to be more effective with their emotions. I had my 5-year-old niece said, "Oh, Aunt Debbie, I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna miss you. You're moving, And do I want my niece to be sad? No. And I don't want her to ingrain, ineffective coping skills where she gets upset, because of a situation that's out of her control, that isn't really a bad situation. I'm moving. I mean, yes, I can be negative about it and say, that I'm not going to be there anymore, but I'm choosing to be positive about it, because I don't want to create negative feelings and upset. I say, be happy. Don't be sad that I'm moving. Be happy. This is a good move for Aunt Debbie, and I'm still going to see you, whatever, because I want to create a positive outcome out of the situation. And my goal is to create positive outcomes out of every situation. A lot of times we cry at graduations, we cry at weddings, we cry at goodbyes. I mean, goodbyes are a little more than, because you're actually leaving. But to cry at a wedding is a happy occasion. But we have been trained to, respond negatively to even happiness. If somebody that does something good, people cry. We have to stop that. It's undermining our happiness. And then we I saw this person who was dealing with her tragedy with laughter. Two people in her family got diagnosed with cancer. And she laughed. She laughed about it as her coping skill. No, no, no. Like, really, that's pretty messed up, um, it's like you can be upset when it's appropriate, and you can, but don't be upset when it's not, and be upset when it is. You don't laugh when somebody gets cancer, but that's her and her hurt, and that's what makes it a backwards world, you know. But let me tell you something. We need to learn that when we cry, we have to be careful how we let hurt in, because we can't let it embody us and overwhelm us and totally take control over us. We're too deep in our hurt, and we don't have the coping skills or the defense mechanisms to manage it. We've embodied it. We've let it saturate our consciousness and our thoughts. We need coping skills and defense mechanisms. And let me tell you something, these coping skills and defense mechanisms are going to keep people out of depression, anxiety, and bipolar and mental illness for life, because we're keeping the negativity out. And we need to keep the negativity out, because if we don't, then we suffer. We suffer. It negative, we don't have if we let it in, then we don't have the defense mechanisms to deal with it, and it can bring people really down to the point of suicide. No defense mechanisms, just ineffective coping skills. And the defense mechanisms that we have are of the ego, actually. And we need to kill the ego to get to our happiness. And then we need to protect our ego, protect our happiness, from negativity. We see what negativity does to happiness. And negativity stems from hurt. So that's another thing. You don't want to contribute any hurt to your children. You don't want to contribute any hurt to your children. Don't hit them. Don't put them down in any way. Don't give them negative thoughts. Give them positive thoughts. Give them encouragement. Give them, support. Give them inspiration. Be their biggest fan and biggest supporter. And don't criticize them at all. You don't want your kids to have an inner critic. And you have to get rid of your inner critic, so you stop criticizing. Because criticism is a built-in behavior of you, not of your child. It's our parenting that leads to mental illness. It's the negative thoughts and low self-esteem. That is the baseline. That's where mental illness stems from. People that don't have mental illness have positive thoughts and healthy self-esteem. Don't have negative thoughts. That's our beautiful, authentic self. And that's the self that your kids are. And then another thing is that you have to give your children the validation. You don't invalidate them in any way. Invalidating them is adding negativity, and you don't want to add negativity because you see, negativity is like a water system. The water can be pure, no contaminants, and now you're running with pure water of positivity, right? And then you add just a handful, a pinch of dirt, and you throw it into the water tank. Now you've just contaminated the whole water tank. And the more dirt that you put in, the more negativity, the more, negativity is going to take over the water. That's how I look at it. I look at it as like a no negative policy, because I want my kids to have positive thoughts. I don't have kids, but I through the healing process accomplish positive thinking. So I share this with other people so that they can have their kids accomplish positive thinking for life and not negative thinking for life. So the validation is very important. Parents don't know how to validate kids because they were invalidated themselves. It's a whole nother process. You can't think, oh, well, I know what invalidation means, so I can apply it to my kids. Doesn't work like that. Nope. No, you cannot figure it out on your own. You need to go through the process of learning, how to validate and what to invalidate, because you want to invalidate the ego and validate being wrong to grow healthy self-esteem. That means that parents have to be wrong, because the parents are accepting the validation when they need to be accepting the invalidation so their kids can develop validation. And let me tell you something. This is for their well-being for life. This is to keep them off the path of mental illness. It really amazes me. I just feel like people are in their hurt. They're in their hurt because they're not acting responsibly and doing what's best for their children. If they were, they would have contacted me. Somebody would have contacted me to say, hey, this can help my kid, and I want to know more. I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to have my kid on the path to positive thoughts and healthy self-esteem. And ego is choosing themselves and being right over their own child's well-being and happiness for life. That's how you know you're an ego, because you're not, contacting me about, what you can do to help your children accomplish positive thoughts and healthy self-esteem. I'm the only person, I believe, that knows. I've accomplished it. And self-esteem was my discovery, which I posted about 1 million times. So anyway, I want to put this information out there because it's really important. It's for the well-being and happiness of your children, and they are on the path to negative thoughts and low self-esteem. And let me tell you something: if you have a childhood and the end result is negative thoughts and low self-esteem when you started with positive thoughts and healthy self-esteem, do you think that was a good childhood? Maybe kids are experiencing a lot more hurt than anybody recognizes. They start childhood with, feeling good about themselves and thinking good about themselves, and they end up, going into the world feeling bad about themselves with negative thoughts. What's going on in childhood? Too much hurt. Kids can't handle it. Kids can't handle having their feelings hurt. Parents can't handle having their feelings hurt. So, all right, my name is Debbie Jacobs. I hope that you have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.